Hello and welcome to another video, and I promise you today's video is not about Halo Infinite. I was looking at the past videos that I put up in the past month or so. I realized how many I put up about Halo Infinite, and I want to rest assured I've been playing other things besides Halo Infinite, and today I want to actually sit down and review Far Cry 6. So I will preface this by saying Far Cry 6 took me way longer to get through than it probably should have. I had a lot of different life events happen between the release of Far Cry 6 and where we are today in December. You know, this is a game that came out literally 2 months ago, and I'm finally getting around to reviewing it now, but I've always liked the Far Cry series. I have done another video review of Far Cry on the channel for Far Cry 5 a couple years ago, and I thought it was time to share my thoughts about Far Cry 6. And I'll start this off by saying I'm mixed on Far Cry 6. Well, I think that Far Cry 6 is probably the best sandbox of any Far Cry game that I've played. The story is somehow weaker than the last entry, which Far Cry 5 had a pretty okay story until the very end. This one has a kind of not great story with a very bad ending. So it kind of left a sour taste in my mouth, and you know, I'm gonna say they went out and they got, I can't remember his name, but the guy from Breaking Bad. He's in The Mandalorian. The bad guy that's the bad guy in everything right now is the bad guy in Far Cry 6. I think he does a good job with what he has, but the story around him and his son in this game is largely, to me, was uninteresting, and I really did not connect with the main character. And that's the other thing I want to say. So Far Cry 6 allows you to play either a male or female version of the main character. I played as the female version. They dropped you in the middle of this conflict in this fictional country, which is basically like Cuba, is what I would equate it to. And it's just, I don't have any respect for the people that are in that, because it's like, you're going out every day, you're killing all these bad soldiers, but then at night you're just partying, and I don't know. I had a problem connecting with the character, and Far Cry 6, I'll say, goes even further with trying to get you to connect with the main character by being the first Far Cry that actually animates your character and all of the cutscenes that they're in, which is an interesting choice for Far Cry, and I don't think it's a bad choice, but it did not help me connect with this character at all through my entire playthrough. When it was all said and done, I spent about 50 hours with Far Cry 6. I probably spent 20 of those hours just running around doing dumb shit in the sandbox and seeing what was going on in the world and all the dumb shit I could come up with. But when it came time to actually power through the missions, that's what took me so long to get through this game. And besides, you know, putting aside some of the stuff that's gone on with me behind the scenes of the channel the last 2 months, I had a hard time like really focusing on this game in a way that I haven't really had that problem with other iterations of Far Cry, which leads me to why I'm kind of mixed on this game. I will also say, like, I have not played any of the DLC. I know the first pack is out that has Vaas from Far Cry 3, and that's really cool, but I just played the campaign. I also didn't have a chance to try the co-op, although I've heard it works really well, so which it worked well in 4 and 5. So Far Cry 6, I mean, there's some cool ideas with it, and I think overall, if you've played previous Far Cry games, you're really going to enjoy your time with this. But as a whole, I just feel like the game could have been a lot better. You could have told a lot better of a story than what's actually presented. And I don't want to get into a lot of the details of the story because I don't want to spoil the game for anybody, even though I know it's been 2 months. That's not my motive here. It's just weird. Like, normally I come off of Far Cry games, I'm like, well, it was a really enjoyable experience. This one, not so much. The other thing I'll say that I think is a smart decision is every Far Cry game up to this one has always had like a level up system. This one doesn't really have that the same way that the previous ones did. So you start this game as kind of a badass in terms of you already have everything unlocked, like all the different moves. Like, I'll give the example of you can have that move where it's like you melee kill somebody, but then you can chain that into another melee for like maybe another guard that's a little bit closer to you. That's all unlocked at the beginning of this game, which is really weird. So it's an interesting choice. You still level up in the game by doing different activities and stuff, but it's not the same as it has been in the past games. The other thing I want to briefly touch upon, which I think is actually a huge negative for this game, is this game does put a cockfighting minigame in the game. Now, normally I'm not one of those people that really gets up in arms about animal rights and animal shit in video games, because at the end of the day, it's a video game. But I do think it's highly insensitive to put a cockfighting minigame in a video game when the version of that is in this game is presented in almost a Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat sense. So it has like a character select screen for the different chickens that you can, or sorry, roosters that you can fight against each other, and it's just really bizarre. And that leads me to another complaint I have about the game, is it's tonally all over the place. Like, one minute it wants to be funny, another minute it wants to be incredibly serious. It just doesn't really know where to like put a fine line in the middle and say this is what we want to do with the story of this game. It doesn't really have that in Far Cry 6. It's kind of just all over the place. That being said, I still enjoyed my time with the sandbox. I still enjoyed what I did with the game, and overall I would say it's one of the better games I played in 2021. This year's been kind of bleak. You know, the landscape is kind of weird because of everything that's going on with the pandemic, so a lot of developers are pushing releases till 2022. So it's been this kind of really odd year with video games, and I think Far Cry 6 is a perfect example of that. Like, I think it's a good game, but I also think now this is the 6th iteration of the main franchise, not counting the side games like the prehistoric one or New Dawn, which was a spin-off of 5. This, you know, that's more like 8 or 9 versions of this game. This could have really benefited from just specifically just being a complete overhaul. You know, they've been using the same engine in this game since Far Cry 3, and while I played it on the Series X, all the footage you're seeing of the game is on the Series X, I will say that it's still, the engine is dated. They need to update it. So I'd like to see them take like 4 or 5 years off of Far Cry and really go underground and make a new experience with a new engine for Far Cry, and come back, don't even number the next Far Cry, just make it Far Cry whatever. And I think that would be a better solution for the series. So my final thoughts on the game, what I would give it, I've toyed with what I want to give this game, because like at the end of the year, it's probably going to be like in the very, very bottom half of my top 10, because I did have a great time with the sandbox of the game, but the story suffers. So I'm choosing to give this game a B-. I do think it's enjoyable. I think if you get it on a sale for like 30-40 bucks, and you've played previous Far Cry's, you'll have a good time with the sandbox, but maybe just don't pay too much attention to the story because it's really not that good. So B- is what I'm getting Far Cry 6. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of Far Cry 6. Did you enjoy the game? Did you dislike the game? Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.